Hi, good morning. A few weeks back, I had shared with you an experience that I had at the Calcutta airport, and that was way back in 1987. But very recently, as we were returning from Bhutan back into India via Calcutta, we had yet another very interesting experience. And the theme of this video is an individual employee makes all the difference. Our flight into Calcutta was in the Bhutanese Airlines. And then from Calcutta, we were taking the Indigo flight back. So that flight was supposed to take off closer to 1:15, if I remember. Apparently what happened was initially they had announced that the gate for the departure of that Indigo flight would be in gate number 15. And this information had come more than, I think, 2 hours ahead of the flight timing. So by the time we landed at the Calcutta airport, there was already this message that it's going to be from gate number 15. So we got on at the Calcutta airport. We had more than almost 2 hours to spend. So we had a very comfortable security pass through. And then we went to a restaurant over there and had some reasonable meal to consume. And we were pretty close to the gate number 15. Now, by the way, Calcutta is also one of the silent airports, which means they don't make any announcements. And as we were sitting over there, I suddenly saw that there was this pop-up information on my mobile. And this must have been probably about 45 minutes or 50 minutes closer to the departure time, where there was an information that now the gate is shifted to 23, if I remember, 23E. Yes, 23E. Now that's a bit of a long walk because you go to the next floor. So fine, the announcement was there. So we also sensed and there was an indication that there could be a slight delay of the flight. So we walked over and then went down and went to 23E. And then there was this, after about 15 minutes, a pop-up saying that the gate is again 15. One has to go back all the way. Now, there was a bit of a confusion also because, you have walked all the way to this place and suddenly there is this kind of a new indication. And there's a bit of a confusion. In the meanwhile, 2 of the Indigo staff who probably were designated to handle this flight of ours, they came down. So I asked them as to what is this because there is this information. So he said, just hold on. And just matter of about 2 minutes, he checked up something and then he said, sir, it's going from 23E, you don't have to go to gate number 15. So I said, friend, I'm so thankful to you for that. But why don't they now say that for the last time, it's clarified, we regret the mix-up in the announcement. We wish to inform you that it is gate number 23E. He said, they will do that very soon, sir. I waited for another maybe 10-15 minutes. The social activist in me, slightly he takes charge. So I went back to that. He was a very pleasant gentleman. So I went back to him and said, look, so far the indicator has not come. Have you sent a message to them? He said, sir, I can assure you I sent a message to them. They're supposed to give the new indication. Unfortunately, it has not happened. And I suggest that you put it up as a feedback. I like that attitude that he's encouraging a customer to give a feedback to the organization about something that's not happening. But anyway, he seemed to be courteous. He seemed to be paying attention. He seemed to be answering everyone who was coming in. Now this whole concept of our silent airport is a misnomer by Indian standards. You know why? All the janta, all the public, they're creating so much of a racket, so much of a noise, so much of confusion. And that in the din of noise, even if you make announcements, it's not going to make any difference. So combination of a silent airport and probably, noisy kind of population, and with this confusion in communication, you can imagine what state that particular Indigo staff member would be. So people kept on coming to him and he was patiently answering. We were drawn by the calmness with which he was handling that. So we were watching and I observed that along with us there was yet one more passenger, a female passenger, also watching this with a bemused kind of look on her face. I think the 3 of us were kind of comfortable observers in the midst of probably about score of other slightly anxious, slightly angry, slightly upset, slightly confused, other passengers. And that particular basement floor was chock-a-block with all kind of public for different takeouts at that point of time. I'm talking about this particular gentleman, and then another gentleman, very pleasant kind of youngster along with him, and the two of them were handling this particular situation. Repeatedly, people came back to this particular person. He would take time, be patient, not one freckle on his face, very calmly explain to everyone, apologize to everyone if required, and was directing people to take the cues. And after about some time, and by this time I think the flight of course had delayed, and they informed the people around that it's going to take a bit of time. And then at a point of time he announced people to kind of stand in the queue, and Indian public, whether they are going to the toilet or they are going to Timbuktu on a flight, they mess up the queue. Anyway, so all that Jamila was happening out there. But the interesting thing was this particular person was handling it with so much of grace, so much of calmness, and so much of positive etiquette. So a few people lost their cool because at one level the flight was delayed, at another level because of this shift in the gate, which didn't get very well handled by the system, was throwing up some confusion and anxieties. So some of them were losing their cool, and he kept giving instruction to this other guy, Zax or something, spectacled, a pleasant guy. This crowd was kind of nudging and pushing, and he opened up the gate. He started boarding the people, and by the time he came to the fourth or fifth person, one of those passengers, again typically one of those Indian experiences that you pick up, had a luggage which was much larger than what can be allowed as a hand baggage, a huge one. So he had to now handle him. He had to make him stand separately, and at the same time, because already his boarding pass is issued, he has got to do the tagging of this particular luggage and then give instruction to somebody to take this luggage, and that takes a couple of extra minutes, and by that time the restlessness of the crowd, it grew, and some more of noise and some more of things, but he handled it very, very calmly. So he kept the luggage on the side, sent him up, and from time to time he would also keep giving instruction to Zach. So the boarding process in terms of the buses picking up the passengers from there, that was also happening. I think because there was this delay of the flight, and probably at what station it was going to be coming and parking, there could be kind of lack of clarity. It was taking that little extra time, and the restless crowd continued to be restless as it was. In the meanwhile, the wife or the female member of that person who brought that extra luggage, she had an extra luggage too. Now he had to handle the second time. And it was so pleasant, that this Indigo staff, he was so courteous. He made it, and he realized that as a woman and an elderly person, a lot more of, kind of respect was required or attention was required. He made her sit in his own seat on the side. Up idhar baithiye, realized that the other passengers were restless, so he handled them, and he told her, just wait, I'll take care of things. We were standing and quietly appreciating and admiring this particular person. At the end of it, all the crowd boarded. So as we came to the counter, I shook his hands and I said, boss, you handled the situation very well. A lot of poise, a lot of calmness, a lot of dignity with which you handled it, and with a lot of customer care. He said, yes sir, that's our job. Yeah, it's the job of so many people, but not all people do it so very well. Truly appreciate you. And I think Zach or whosoever your assistant. So he smiled and he said, thank you so much, sir. And I thought in my mind that I must write to Indigo and tell them that they got an amazing staff out there. Suchin and Zach, as he called the other person. In the midst of confusion, in the midst of pressures, very high quality grace and poise in handling a situation. Without ever a single time, not once, even a freckle on the face or a dismay being displayed. Hats off, Suchin and Zach. They really care for the customer, really care for the organization's brand and reputation. They really care for what happens out there, take ownership and responsibility, and do a terrific job. Keep up this spirit, keep up this culture. I wish Indigo all the very best.